The thing that you realize when you smoke a tobacco pipe for the first time is that there's a lot more to it than you probably realize. You have to learn how to pack the pipe, and then you have to learn how to light it, and then you learn that there's actually some techniques for even drawing it in, and it's not as simple as just smoking it like you do a cigar or cigarette. But there's something about it usually that's like, that part was pretty good, so it brings you back to it. This is the usual progression for people, is they try it again and again, and eventually they get to this place where the tobacco pipe just becomes a ritual, a regular ritual in their life that brings them so much peace and satisfaction and enjoyment that it's a ritual they enjoy for the rest of their lives. I am starting something new on my channel, something that ties into tobacco pipes and the practice of smoking them. Today, we're talking about how tobacco pipes, in my experience, have been life-changing. Now, it's not the actual smoking of the tobacco pipe that's life-changing, it's the principle behind it. But to get to that, we have to jump into 12 Rules for Life and what I'm going to be doing with this channel, at least for the foreseeable future. Listen. This has been a long time coming where I've wanted to get this channel going again, but other things in my world, like making a living for the family and trying to grow a business and lots of things, lots of changes have prevented me from doing what I want to do. But I've wanted to for a long time. So here's the new plan. And here's what I'll be doing on our home away from home. This channel, which I changed the name from Suburban Pilgrims to my name because I'm full of myself. Coffee. So I read quite a bit, like a fair amount, and I want to read more. I want to read daily. And so part of what I wanted to do is include that in my daily life, is just take some time out every day, read through some pages, spend like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever, just reading. But more importantly, for me, it's hard to take books in and actually apply what I'm learning from the books to my life. Why am I talking like this? Like a boardroom? I don't know. But I find that after I read something or hear something that's impactful to me, if I can take everything that's in my head from something I read and sort of spew it out, I remember it better. So all that to say, my plan for this channel, until I'm able to give it more and more time, is to take time out of my day, every day, my work days, go through past books that I've read and actually go through it and just like process it. So that's the plan, and do that over a delicious pipe every day. So this pipe, by the way, that I'll be smoking today is this is Bing's favorite. Yeah, Bing's favorite, and it's by I don't know how to pronounce it. You know the Italian brand that makes pipes? It starts with an S and it's like Savinelli. Savinelli. I just keep saying that. Savinelli. What is it? Super cool pipe. I'm gonna be smoking whatever I have left over in this bowl from the other night, because I do that. You're not supposed to. It was this brand, Robert McConnell's. It wasn't Scottish cake, though. Something like that. It was delicious. All right. So I'm just going to be talking through, like I'm going to go. So today's book, by the way, we'll be going through. Wow. Tobacco Everywhere. This is a book that has had more of an impact in my life. It's decent, probably the top 3 most impactful books I've ever read. Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. And I'm literally going to go through, there's a lot like underlined and highlighted. I'm just going to start from the beginning with the first part that I highlighted and talk through why it was important for me. Especially, man, if you're somebody who, hasn't had a lot of advice from others in your life, especially men, these books are like mentors on another level. So let's light up and let's get into some highlights from this amazing book. By the way, look at this matchbox, huh? It's kind of a trick though, because it's just a regular matchbox inside, but sure looks pretty. Failure is not an option. Let's try this again. Oh yeah. That's going to do it. We did it. All right. I'm going to read the first part that I had highlighted. It's not going to make much sense because it's taken out of context, but I'll explain why I highlighted this. This, by the way, is from page 6, chapter 1 of 12 Rules for Life. The dominant lobster is badly defeated. Its brain basically dissolves. Then it grows a new subordinate brain, one more appropriate to its new lowly position. Its original brain just isn't sophisticated enough to manage the transformation from king to bottom dog without virtually complete disillusion and regrowth. Anyone who has experienced a painful transformation after a serious defeat in romance or career may feel some sense of kinship with the once successful crustacean. So, this is why this was impactful for me. we live in a world today where, especially for men, especially white men, which I happen to be, you are about the lowliest position you could be in, at least in the West. Most people, a lot of people, hate you just because of the way you look and who you are. What has happened in many men's lives is that they have unknowingly, unbeknownst to them, been formed and constructed and brought up in such a way that they're kind of a far cry or a shadow of what a man really should be. And I think for a lot of men, they don't realize this until later in life, like me. Went out. I have another lighter. So what has happened to a lot of men, myself included, is you grow up with an idea of who you're going to be and what you're going to accomplish, which is natural for men because we tend to be more, what's the word? We have more gusto, more competitiveness in us, more of an angst to get out there and do things and make something of ourselves. So you go out into the world and the world starts to sort of treat you a certain way and you kind of get beat up and beat down because life will do that, period. You start to take on this position, this sort of framework, this mindset that you aren't who you had set out to become. And maybe you're just a loser. And maybe you'll never become the person you wanted to become. And you sort of feel like you've fallen from the ideal that you had set for yourself. You fall down from that and begin comparing yourself to other men who have strived and become what you wanted to become, whether it was a successful career or it was a certain position in life with your family or a certain, level of fitness even that you haven't achieved. And just all these areas start to become more and more present in your life. You become more and more aware of what you haven't become, what you haven't achieved. You begin to take a less dominant posture mentally, like in your psyche. And this can manifest itself in very physical ways. You can see this in adults. There is this posture, literal posture that successful people, confident people will take, which is sort of shoulders back. They stand up straight. They'll look you in the eye. They walk into a room with confidence, perceive them as better than you, somebody who has achieved more than you, somebody who has hit that mark that you had set for yourself that you haven't hit for yourself, and you feel like you're never going to hit it. And so you start to take this posture, a physical posture sometimes, and also certainly in your head, this posture of weak and small. And you kind of don't want people to look at you because you don't want them to maybe see your inadequacies. You don't want them to see what you've become. And so this part of the book, I've experienced this in my own life. It's something I try to work through, but I was like, dang, that's exactly what I've experienced. If a dominant lobster, and I think as men especially, we all start out, maybe not everybody, that's definitely not true, but for a lot of us, we start out with this idea that we're a dominant lobster. Maybe we were successful in sports when we were kids, or we were successful or good at something that other people weren't good at. People started to, if you had like encouraging parents, like a lot of us did in the 80s especially, they really encouraged you and you felt like, man, I can do anything. Like I'm so much better than everyone else. And then you get older and you realize, maybe I'm not so good. There's a lot of other people who are better than me. And maybe I can go, and you just start to you go from this, like what this says, a dominant lobster who is badly defeated. That's what life does to everybody at some point. Life is pretty tough and you'll get defeated. You'll be defeated. But for men, because we put so much emphasis and so much value in sort of what we can achieve, not sort of, like exactly what we can achieve. We want to win at whatever it is we're pursuing. We want to win. We want to be the best. We're competitive naturally. So if you were a dominant lobster, if you were dominant in your own head at some point and you were badly defeated, your brain basically dissolves, is what this says, which I was like, that makes sense. Then it grows a new subordinate's brain, one more appropriate to its new lowly position. And that's where you sort of take on this role of, I'm just a loser, and you take on this position. Its original brain just isn't enough to manage the transformation from king to bottom dog without virtually complete disillusion and regrowth. It's really difficult to come to grips with who you actually are versus who you thought you would become. And it's like our brain, almost to protect us from that, as this describes, almost changes its chemical structure and rebuilds this new brain that is in a lowlier position and brain and the mindset we had for ourselves when we were younger because of defeat after defeat, not living up to who we want to become, who we like to be. Anyone who's experienced a painful transformation after a serious defeat in romance or career may feel some sense of kinship with the once successful crustacean. So this is a real thing that happens in lobsters. Like they've studied lobsters and lobster dominance hierarchies, and this is how it works. You'll find a lobster who's successful, who's been in a lot of battles with other lobsters, who continues to win, and it's dominant. It's like the man who walks into the door with his shoulders back, his back straight. He looks you straight in the eye. He has confidence. He has value in his life. You can tell that he is somebody. That's like the lobster who continues to win. And then you have these lobsters who have continued to lose, and they don't want to lose again because losing hurts and it's painful and it's hard to deal with. And so these lobsters take on this physical structure, this physical position where if they're in a potential conflict with a stronger monster, they'll sort of scour away and they'll keep their head down because they don't want to get hit again. We tend to do the same thing. So that's what that part was and why it stuck out to me. Let me see if I highlight anything that gets into what you do about that, because that's kind of important. Here's the next part I highlighted. This means that dominance hierarchies have been an essentially permanent feature of the environment to which all complex life has adapted. For men especially, there is a very real dominance hierarchy in whatever it is you're pursuing or whatever work you're in or whatever sector of life you've decided to traverse down, you know, whatever career you've taken, whoever you've become, whoever you're attempting to become. There's this dominance hierarchy. There's always somebody else who's better than you. We rank ourselves accordingly. You know, we do that naturally. That's why I highlighted that part. I thought, man, that's true no matter what you go into. Which is, man, why I've been really getting into Stoicism. Some of the books I'm going to read are like Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, and I have this one, Seneca, Letters from a Stoic. All right, last section I'll read for this video. Famous yin and yang symbols of the Taoists, I think it is, capture this beautifully. Being, for the Taoists, reality itself, is composed of two opposing principles, often translated as feminine and masculine, or even more narrowly as female and male. However, yin and yang are more accurately understood as chaos and order. White serpent, order, has a black dot on its head. This is because chaos and order are interchangeable, as eternally juxtaposed. I am not of the IQ that I can understand Jordan Peterson very well, okay? Just leave me alone. That's why I'm low on the dominance hierarchy and why I'm a lowly lobster. Here's the takeaway for me. We've lived in a pretty soft, pretty easy world, and we have gotten fat and lazy because of it. Many men have woken up to this fact and realized that we're fat and lazy compared to what we used to be, and we need to fix it in ourselves. But it's difficult because the world is pretty easy still. But we're most likely entering a period of time in our history, my lifetime for sure, where this will no longer be the case. And we're going to face some real adversity and real struggles that maybe the world's never seen before. And I feel as if you're not preparing yourself for what is to come right now, then you're going to get wiped out like a rogue wave on the Northern California coastline. If you've never been there, you'll just get these rogue waves out of nowhere that'll just knock you, well, kill you, like literally. You're not paying attention to what's coming. And you're just sort of sitting there on your iPhone. You're not paying attention to that wave that you can see out there starting to break. It's coming your way. You're going to get knocked for a loop and you may die. Or die in some ways, you know, where you've just completely lost your sense of self and you're just in a world of hurt. So what I think is best to do is understand that like if you're the guy who walks into a room and doesn't make eye contact and you sort of scour down, you avoid people and you're just like, you've just been defeated and you feel it and you don't want to admit it to yourself, but you know you've gotten knocked for a loop and you have not fared well in this world and you feel like you're not living up to your potential, living up to who you know you could be. You're not alone. That is probably as common as breathing for most men. I think some men don't acknowledge it, don't realize it, or just they've been hit by life so hard that they're in such a lowly position. They end up in the streets of San Francisco, as just homeless bums. And that's the life that they chose. And I don't know what you do with, when you get to that point, but you're not there and you're in a place where you're actively attempting to better yourself. You can change. Like, that's the great. I mean, if you look at where you started with this great idea of who you can become and dreams and ambitions, and the world's just kind of knocked you down. Over time, that changes your brain chemistry, it changes how you look at yourself. But the same is true if you begin building successes into your life, and you can. But it takes, and I'll probably have to do another video on this because I'm still learning this for myself. You think I would have learned this a long time ago, but setting direction for your life, a goal that you maybe used to have for who you want to become. It's probably best not to use the goal that you had when you were 12 for your life, because a lot of people do that. Set an actually attainable goal for bettering yourself, for who you want to become. Look at a year from now. Who would you like to become? Who do you look up to? Who's somebody who you think, man, they've got it together? They have achieved success in their life. I don't mean financial or business. I mean success in their family, success as a father, success maybe in their fitness, success in their well-being, their mental state seems so much better. Whatever it is, set some goals, read some books, and every day attempt to take a step closer toward that goal. It's literally what it is. It's figuring out what a practical, that's really what it takes to change your brain chemistry and start to rebuild what you've lost over time, is setting small incremental goals. They can be as tiny as you need it to be. Take one area of your life that you need to fix. Probably the area that, if you're married, that your wife keeps telling you about, that you need to, like, your wife is going to be or any girl in your life is going to be the best way to gauge, like, what do I need to work on, if you don't know. But you probably know. You'd probably know the area you really need to work on and get better at. Today, in this moment, do something that propels you forward closer to the ideal, better version of yourself in that one area. You don't have to overcomplicate it. You don't have to make it too grand. Take one area, one thing you want to fix. Attempt right now in this moment to do something. The smallest thing you can think of, the smallest thing you'll actually do. Do that one thing that tomorrow, when you look back at today, you'll be happy you did that. You'll feel like, well, I did that. At least I did that. Or at least I didn't do the thing that I continue to do every day. Continues to make me feel worse and worse about myself, shittier and shittier about myself. You can take that one thing. It's a tiny thing that tomorrow you'll feel good about. Amazing how if you literally just do that every day, week, you'll be like, overall, I did some better things this week than I did the week before. And you continue to do that. And those small, subtle wins have the opposite effect of when life beats you down. You'll slowly begin to crawl out of this state of hating yourself. Again, thinking like, maybe I've actually got a shot. I'm better today than I was yesterday. That's it. All right, that's it. I got to get to work.